I eased my sensible hybrid down the perfectly manicured streets of Oakwood Estates, fingers white-knuckled on the wheel like they always were on HOA potluck nights. 6 months since the last summons for excessive porch clutter. My crime? 3 Amazon boxes stacked for exactly 47 minutes. The brick and siding homes gleamed under the Georgia sun, every lawn edged with military precision, every flagpole flying the exact shade of approved navy. But that perfection hid the real rot. Brenda Hargrove's iron fist wrapped in pastel cardigans and a clipboard. I parked behind her son Derek's leased Range Rover, checked my reflection, lipstick flawless, not a strand out of place, and whispered the same mantra I'd repeated since the first $250 fine 3 years ago. Armor on. Smile locked. Observe everything. The community clubhouse smelled like potpourri and passive aggression. Brenda fussed over the sterling serving spoons like she was hosting the Met Gala instead of a neighborhood casserole night. "Sophia, you're here," she said without looking up, voice syrupy enough to rot teeth. "Be a dear and set out the water glasses." Derek's almost finished with the brisket. No hello. No eye contact. Just assignment. I moved to the sideboard lined with photos of Derek. Derek at Emory graduation. Derek shaking hands with the mayor. Derek receiving yet another Finance Bro award. My single high school graduation shot was tucked in the corner like an afterthought. Arthur, Brenda's husband, emerged from the kitchen, carving knife gleaming, face flushed with the same pride he reserved exclusively for his son. "Brisket's almost ready," he announced to the room, never once to me. The apron read, "Kiss the cook." A Father's Day gift from Derek, naturally. Brenda circled the table a third time, straightening napkins that were already military straight. Derek should be here any minute. Something about a call with Tokyo. Of course, Derek could be late. Golden Boy's time was currency. The front door burst open and Derek's voice boomed like a closing bell. "Family, sorry neighborhood." He strode in wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my first year of rent, even on a Sunday. Brenda lit up like a Christmas tree nobody was allowed to display before November 15th per Rule 4.2. Arthur clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to rattle teeth. Derek loosened his tie. Had to wrap up the Kensington acquisition. 8 figures. They settled around the table. Brenda at the head now that she'd strong-armed the board into letting her host. Arthur to her right, Derek left, me facing the blank wall of HOA violation notices framed like art. Arthur attacked the brisket while Brenda passed dishes with the precision of a dictator. "So, Derek," she cooed, serving him the best cut. "How's life treating Atlanta's next real estate titan?" Derek laughed, chewing thoughtfully. "Just close another round. Looking at property 2. That modern estate on the edge of the community. 5.2 million, floor-to-ceiling windows, floating staircase. Perfect bachelor command center." Arthur whistled. Brenda's eyes sparkled. "Prime Oakwood real estate. Viewing Tuesday. Offer by Friday." They exchanged proud glances while I pushed dry brisket around my plate. Brenda turned to me almost as an afterthought. "And you, Sophia? Still tinkering with that little online shop?" The silence lasted 2 heartbeats before the table erupted in polite laughter. Derek wiped his mouth. "Good one, Soph. Stick to your trinkets. Leave the big moves to the adults." I kept my face blank, the same mask I'd worn since Brenda's first certified letter about my commercial activity in a residential zone, even though every sale happened online and every box left after dark. "In fact," Derek continued, reaching for wine, "I'm thinking of pouring capital into Urban Bloom. They're going to crush all the little hobby shops like yours." The memory slammed me. Age 20, clutching a 5-page business plan in Brenda's office during an HOA consultation. She'd skimmed it for 30 seconds, patted my hand, and said, "Cute, sweetheart. Focus on keeping your lawn compliant." Meanwhile, Derek had just landed Goldman. That night I'd sworn never to share dreams again. Years of 2 a.m. Garage packing, a supplier who vanished with my life savings, 3 side jobs to rebuild, while smiling at every potluck and paying every fine without complaint. Brenda pushed store-bought pie toward me. Have dessert, dear. You're looking thin. I smiled the practiced smile that never reached my eyes. They never noticed. If they only knew Evergreen Nest cleared $35 million last year, that my trinkets were in design magazines and celebrity homes, that 47 employees called me boss with actual respect. I stood. Work tomorrow. Derek snorted. Playing shop. Brenda walked me to the door, pressing foil-wrapped leftovers into my hands. Since you probably don't cook much. I accepted with the same smile, said the expected pleasantries, and escaped. Hands trembling on the wheel, I whispered to the empty car, enough. I dialed Reese. How was potluck, he asked. Derek wants the estate on the edge, $5.2 million. Reese was quiet a beat. And I want it. The words tasted like freedom. The house. Yes. And everything they think I can't have. I could hear his grin. It's about time. Evergreen Nest headquarters didn't look like a hobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern white furniture, vibrant accent pieces from the latest collection, each one a silent middle finger to every HOA violation notice taped to my door. Reese Thornton stood at the glass overlooking Atlanta, quarterly reports glowing on his screen. Consistent growth, profit margins that would make Derek cry, 8-figure projections. The wall behind his desk held framed magazine covers, awards, Home Entrepreneur of the Year. The elevator opened, and I walked in still wearing potluck armor, expression now sharpened steel. How bad? Reese asked. Derek's buying the estate. They laughed when I said I was house hunting too. Reese winced. Of course they did. A staffer approached with fabric swatches, hesitated at my face, then smiled. Milan samples arrived. Thought you'd want to see them. My shoulders softened. Perfect for spring. Schedule production tomorrow. Respect, not condescension. Trust, not doubt. Reese leaned back. 5 years we've built this, and they still think you're playing store. I walked to the window. Derek mentioned investing in Urban Bloom, our biggest competitor. Reese's jaw tightened. He remembered the night I'd offered him COO, everyone calling him crazy to leave 6 figures for a startup. The estate, he said slowly. You want it? I can afford it, I stated flatly. Reese studied the vision board, growth charts, international targets. This isn't revenge. It's recognizing my worth. I traced the projected lines. By hiding my success, I enabled their dismissal. I owe myself this. He nodded, already opening the listing. All cash. Through an LLC. Closing expedited before Derek can secure funding. Hours later, coffee cups littered the conference table. Good news, Reese announced. Listing still open. Selling agent is Mary Holbrook. We donated to her charity last year. Viewing tomorrow. I studied the renderings. Modern lines, glass walls, floating staircase. Everything Derek had described. Buy it all cash. Reese grinned like a general before battle. It's time, Sophia. Let's show them what trinkets can build. We planned every detail. Anonymous LLC. No contingencies. Paperwork submitted before Derek's bank even opened. For one flickering second, doubt crossed my face. This will change everything with the neighborhood. Reese met my eyes. Maybe that's overdue. I signed the offer letter, my real name, my real worth on paper for the first time. Submit it first thing tomorrow. A week later, the realtor's heels clicked across marble as she led us through the empty mansion, voice echoing in spaces that would soon be mine. Reese walked beside me, whispering commentary that made me smile despite the wait. All cash offer was genius. They accepted in hours. Derek never stood a chance. I ran fingertips along cool marble counters in a kitchen big enough for an army. Wasn't even a competition. He waits for approvals and connections. I wrote a check. Morning light poured through the glass, illuminating the Atlanta skyline that took my breath away. The sellers had been giddy. Never seen an offer move so fast. No contingencies, no inspection. We climbed the floating staircase, each step of victory. The master bedroom spanned the east wing, bathroom bigger than my first apartment. This is where you'll sleep, Reese said softly. Your kingdom. I stood in the empty room, imagining my furniture, my art, my life finally visible. Reese leaned against the doorframe, eyes gleaming mischief. You know what would be poetic? A housewarming. Not just any party, the reveal party. Invite the entire board, the neighborhood, including Brenda and Derek. Let them tour the halls admiring everything before they learn who owns it. I pictured Brenda touching fixtures, Arthur commenting on craftsmanship, Derek calculating square footage, all without knowing. The perfect ambush. That's deliciously evil, I said, smile spreading. I love it. The next 3 weeks blurred with designers swarming like efficient ants, transforming emptiness into something unmistakably mine. I approved every shade of gray, every rug texture, every light fixture. Feature these pieces from our spring collection prominently, I told the lead designer, pointing to evergreen nest items that had graced magazine covers. I want them everywhere. Between consultations, I made the obligatory appearance at Brenda's for coffee. As I slipped toward the powder room, I overheard Derek's agitated voice from the study. Some anonymous cash buyers swooped in and took it. The estate. My estate. Gone before I could start paperwork. Brenda soothed. You'll find something better, dear. Derek's voice rose. I had my eye on that property for months. It was perfect. Arthur interjected. I'll call my banker friends. Something will come up. I slipped away, satisfaction warming my chest. They had no idea what was coming. The invitations went out. Heavy cream cardstock, minimalist envelopes. New Oakwood Estates residents. Housewarming with date, time, address, no host name. Reese and I reviewed the guest list. Every important Atlanta connection, plus the unsuspecting board in Hargroves. My phone rang the next day. Brenda. Sophia. Did you get one too? An invitation to the estate on the edge. Must be Derek's new colleague or something. I suppressed laughter. Yes, looks interesting. You should come. It'll be good for you to network with Derek's crowd. The familiar tone. I needed help connecting with the right people. I'll be there, I assured her. You should too. We already RSVP'd. Derek thinks it's someone from that new tech firm downtown. Good networking. When I hung up, Reese raised an eyebrow. They took the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. The night of the party, I stood in my new master bedroom, examining my reflection. The black dress cost more than most monthly salaries, but tonight demanded highest grade armor. Hair in soft waves, makeup perfect yet understated. I looked successful, powerful, untouchable. Outside, the house glowed with strategic lighting highlighting modern lines. Inside, caterers arranged exquisite food. Reese arrived first, whistling low. It's magnificent. Better than you described. We stood at the bottom of the floating staircase, sharing a moment of solidarity. He raised his glass in private toast. To the woman who built an empire while they weren't looking. I touched my glass to his throat tight. Tonight isn't about approval. It's about truth. The doorbell rang. First guests, business acquaintances, and influencers, exclaimed over the house while trying to guess the host. I moved among them anonymously. An hour later, I spotted them. Arthur entering first, Brenda clutching her designer handbag, Derek scanning the room, calculating net worth. Whose house do you think this is? Brenda asked loudly. Has to be tech money or old Atlanta wealth? Place must have cost a fortune. They wandered, commenting on furnishings, architecture, view. Brenda stopped before a distinctive vase from my collection. This looks like one of those things from Sophia's website, she said, bending closer. Derek scoffed. Probably a knockoff. Real quality here. The moment had arrived. I slipped away, ascending the floating staircase unseen until I reached the top. From this vantage, I saw the entire party below. Reese caught my eye, raised his glass, our signal. He tapped a spoon against crystal. The chime cut through conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe our host would like to say a few words. All eyes turned upward. The room fell silent. I spotted the Hargroves immediately. Arthur's confusion, Brenda's surprise, Derek's narrowed eyes, trying to process why I was speaking. Welcome everyone, I began, voice steady. My neighbors in particular were always worried about my future. They thought my hobby couldn't possibly pay the bills. So I'm glad you're all here to see what that hobby bought. Welcome to my house. Absolute silence. In a hush, I heard Derek's phone clatter to the marble floor. Arthur's face drained of color. Brenda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Other guests murmured in admiration, raising glasses. Across the room, Reese beamed with pride. But it was the Hardrose expressions I'd remember forever. The exact second they finally saw me standing in my truth, $5.2 million of undeniable success beneath my feet. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I was simply showing them who I'd always been. And it felt like freedom. The stunned silence lasted exactly 5 seconds before a nervous laugh erupted somewhere in the crowd. I remained at the top of the floating staircase, watching guests shift uncomfortably, glancing between the Hardroves and me. Brenda recovered first, social training kicking in. "Sophia, stop joking," she said with forced lightness that fooled nobody. "Whose house is this really?" I descended 3 steps, keeping higher ground. "Mine, Brenda." Every square inch. Arthur pushed through the crowd, face flushed, grabbing my elbow while keeping a plastic smile for onlookers. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed. "Is this some sick joke?" I disengaged with a subtle twist. "No joke. No games. Just fact." Behind him, Derek stood frozen, expression cycling shock, disbelief, calculation. The wheels turned behind those finance bro eyes, reassessing everything he thought he knew about the neighborhood hobby girl. Servers circulated champagne. The quartet played on, strings filling awkward silence. $5.2 million, I announced just loud enough for nearby guests. Paid in cash for my hobby. A woman from a design magazine approached, flute extended. "Sophia, this place is spectacular. I had no idea Evergreen Nest was doing so well. We featured your autumn collection last issue." Arthur's face went gray. Brenda clutched imaginary pearls. "Thank you," I replied, accepting the toast. It's been quite a year. Other guests drifted over offering congratulations, asking business questions. With each interaction, the Hardroves retreated further into isolation, their decades-old narrative disintegrating in real time. I excused myself to refresh my drink. Derek appeared beside me at the wine table, teeth clenched in a grimace pretending to be a smile. He gripped his bourbon tumbler so tightly I expected it to shatter. "What game are you playing?" he demanded, low and aggressive. "There's no way you can afford this." "What did you do? Get some sugar daddy investor?" I sipped champagne, maintaining eye contact. "Evergreen Nest cleared $35 million in revenue last year, Derek. I bought this house with my money. Cash." The satisfaction of watching his eyes widen was worth every fine, every late-night packing session, every condescending potluck. He processed, recalculating. "Why didn't you come to me for investment advice? I could have helped structure things, tax advantages, offshore accounts." I cut him off. "You never asked about my business. Not once. Why would I come to you now?" The truth landed like a slap. Derek retreated to Arthur in the corner. They huddled, hushed conversation punctuated by glances my way. Brenda approached next, emergency smile in place. The same one she used when Derek's pool party violated noise ordinances, but she waived the fine. "Sophia, darling," air kiss near my cheek. "What a lovely surprise. We always knew you were smart with money." Revisionist history already beginning. I sipped without responding. Arthur joined, sliding an arm around Brenda. "Quite the surprising success." He emphasized surprising, like my achievement was cosmic accident. "Tell us about your revenue model. How did you scale so quickly without institutional investors?" 8 years too late, they wanted answers. "It's a long story," I replied, offering nothing. Brenda suggested, voice honeyed with newfound respect, "We should have a board business dinner soon. Arthur has excellent contacts who might be interested." "Perhaps," I said noncommittally. The power shift was palpable. For the first time, they were chasing me. Reese caught my eye across the room, eyebrow raised in silent question. I gave a slight nod, all proceeding as planned. He moved through the crowd, redirecting conversations when needed. As the evening progressed, I overheard Arthur and Derek near the bar. Temporary cash flow issues, Arthur muttered. But if we can secure bridge financing, Derek cut him off sharply. The Kensington investment went sideways. I told you it was high risk. I paused by a column, pretending to examine a painting. How bad? Arthur asked tight. Bad enough, Derek replied. We need to talk privately. Not here. I moved away, processing new information. The golden boy wasn't so golden. Rather than confront, I decided to observe. This vulnerability changed the equation. Later, mingling around the custom marble island, I overheard two financial analysts. Heard Derek's firm lost the Westridge account last month. Major blow. Last 3 investments underperformed. I filed it away, hostess smile intact. Reese approached with fresh champagne. Interesting party, he murmured. Your neighbor's firm isn't doing as well as projected. Missed last 2 quarterly targets by double digits. I accepted the glass, fingers brushing. Interesting. Let's keep our eyes open. The family that had dismissed my business acumen for years now faced their own reckoning. I hadn't planned this leverage, but as any good entrepreneur knows, the best opportunities are the ones you didn't expect. 3 months of calculated maneuvers had transformed Evergreen Nest from thriving company into market predator. I sat at my executive desk reviewing final acquisition reports with Reese. Outside, the skyline gleamed. Supply chain acquisition complete, Reese said, sliding another folder. That makes 7 of Urban Bloom's key suppliers now under our umbrella. I nodded at the numbers. Urban Bloom, Derek's pet investment, had been struggling with deliveries and quality for weeks. Each quiet purchase tightened the noose without fingerprints. Market analysts released their report this morning, I said, passing my tablet. They're calling Evergreen Nest the unexpected powerhouse, disrupting home goods e-commerce. Reese scrolled, smiling. And look at this paragraph about Urban Bloom's erratic pivots. They're scrambling. My desk pinged. Warehouse deal ready for approval. Derek had no idea we'd been negotiating to purchase the very building Urban Bloom operated from. Ready for the boardroom? Reese asked. I stood, smoothing my charcoal suit. Let's finish this. In the sleek conference room, our team and lawyers waited, mood professional yet charged. This wasn't business. It was the final chess move only Reese and I understood. The bankruptcy purchase agreement is ready for your signature, Miss Lang, lead counsel said, sliding the document. Once filed, you'll own all remaining Urban Bloom assets at approximately 12 cents on the dollar. I signed without hesitation. Congratulations. You now own your largest competitor. No champagne. No pageantry. Just power. Back in my office, Reese handed me the fresh industry publication. Headline blazed, Urban Bloom Files Chapter 11, E-Commerce Darlings Spectacular Failure. They're questioning the investment firm's judgment, Reese noted, pointing. Derek's name appears 3 times, not flattering. I skimmed phrases like catastrophic mismanagement and investor confidence shattered. Derek Hargrove was being roasted by the same press that once celebrated him. Your neighbor's firm is taking a major hit, Reese observed. I set the magazine down. He bet against me with other people's money. He lost. My phone buzzed, the 7th call from Brenda today. I silenced it. Over the past week, her attempts had escalated from occasional to frantic. Text messages grew more desperate. I played the latest voicemail on speaker. Sophia, please. We need to talk. It's serious. Reese raised an eyebrow. They're finally figuring it out. Seems that way. What do you think? Should you even bother? He considered. You owe them nothing, but hear them out if you want closure. I walked to the window, looking out at the city I'd conquered despite their dismissal. The neighborhood that never believed in me now scrambled for my attention. The irony wasn't lost. Let them come to me, I decided. On my terms. In my house. I scheduled the meeting for Sunday at 5 p.m., exactly the time HOA potlucks had always been served. Symbolic, but I was past caring about subtlety. That Sunday, I positioned myself at the top of my floating staircase as the security system announced their arrival. Through massive windows, I watched them approach. Arthur's shoulders slumped in defeat, Brenda dabbing eyes with tissue, Derek trailing, eyes fixed on ground. The contrast to that potluck months ago couldn't have been starker. Power had completely reversed. I made no move to descend as they entered the foyer, standing silent and small beneath me. "Come in," I said, voice carrying across marble. I turned without waiting, leading them into the living room, offering neither coats nor refreshments. I settled into a single chair, leaving them to arrange on the sofa opposite. Silence stretched thick with unspoken history. I didn't break it. This was their meeting. Let them speak first. Arthur cleared his throat, hands clasped. "Sophia, we need your help." I raised an eyebrow. Brenda jumped in, voice trembling. "Derek has lost everything." "Everything," I repeated, tone professional, detached. Arthur nodded, face gray. "Our savings too. We co-signed on his investment. Our retirement is gone." Brenda leaned forward, tears spilling. "We need help, Sophia. Alone, just until we get back on our feet." Derek hadn't spoken, hadn't looked up. His designer clothes looked rumpled, hair unwashed. "What exactly did you lose everything on?" I asked him directly. He flinched, muttered toward the floor. "A tech startup, an e-commerce brand. You wouldn't get it. It was called Urban Bloom." I smiled. The expression felt like ice. "Urban Bloom, our biggest competitor for the last 6 months. Did you wonder why they filed bankruptcy last Tuesday? It's because Evergreen Nest, my company, acquired their entire supply chain. You bet against me with our neighbor's money. You lost." Arthur's mouth fell open. Brenda's weeping intensified. "Sophia, please, we're neighbors. We're community." Derek finally looked up, face twisted with anger and shame. I stood, smoothing my slacks in one fluid motion. The conversation was over. I walked calmly to the front door and pulled it open wide, letting afternoon light spill across marble. "Get off my property," I said quietly, and I closed the door on their shocked faces. 3 months later afternoon, sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Oakwood Estates mansion, casting long golden rectangles across marble. The living room, once a showcase, now felt truly lived in. Cashmere throw over the sectional, art chosen for meaning, fresh flowers in a handcrafted vase from my own collection. I leaned forward, studying fabric swatches on a coffee table. Reese sat opposite, tablet in hand. "Third quarter numbers exceeded projections by 17%, he said, sliding the tablet. "That sustainable housewares line is outselling everything else 2-to-1. I nodded, allowing a small genuine smile. Not the shield from potlucks, but real. People respond to authenticity. Who knew? I picked up a luxurious cream fabric sample, thumb running across texture. The room felt different now. No lingering tension, no victory needed, just peace. About the expansion, Reese continued, scrolling presentation. "I found a manufacturer in North Carolina, family-owned 3 generations, impeccable labor practices, all materials sourced within 500 miles. I tilted my head. Higher production costs, but lower carbon footprint. American-made carries weight with our demographic. Exactly what I was thinking. Our shorthand flowed effortlessly now, built on years of trust. "Did you see the industry award nomination?" he added casually, eyes betraying excitement. "Design Guild's Visionary Brand category. About time," I said without bitterness. No need to downplay anymore. No reflexive modesty learned at Brenda's table. My phone buzzed against marble, screen illuminating with Brenda Hargrove. The room seemed to hold its breath. Reese watched carefully. A brief memory flashed, their shocked faces as the door closed. For a moment, my finger hovered. 3 months ago, this call would have sent adrenaline. 6 months ago, I might have answered desperate for approval. Without ceremony, I silenced it and turned the phone face down. "Let's use the better fabric for this one," I said, returning to the swatch as if nothing happened. Reese nodded, gesture containing volumes of understanding. No discussion needed. We moved through the afternoon, conversation flowing to future plans, potential pop-up in Chicago, collaborations with emerging artists, winter collection palette. Not once did we mention the hard rows or Derek's failed investment. I laughed unexpectedly at Reese's dry observation about a competitor's awkward rebranding. The sound bounced off high ceilings, unfettered and genuine. I moved to the window, observing manicured grounds as evening approached. My reflection in the glass, shoulders relaxed, posture open, eyes clear. This house felt different now. Not a statement, not revenge, just home. As dusk settled, warm light bloomed throughout the rooms, casting golden glow on modern angles. Reese and I walked our senior designer to the front door after finalizing spring collection details. "Dinner at 8?" the designer asked. "Marcus is bringing that chef he's been dating. Says we need an unbiased opinion on his risotto." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, casual certainty of plans with chosen family feeling more natural than any potluck ever had. Back inside, I noticed my phone on the coffee table, screen lit with notifications of 3 missed calls. Without checking, I set the device face down and walked toward the kitchen. I had waited my entire life to say those words at the top of the staircase. Now that I discovered something unexpected. Freedom tastes better than revenge.